今天要分享的改编故事是此地无银三百两，希望能在学习英语的路上给你带来收获。你的每个点赞和订阅都是对我莫大的鼓励。那么，咱们开始吧。
There is an old story about a man named Zhang San. He was not a rich man, but he was a hard worker. Every day, he saved a little bit of his money. He denied himself small pleasures. He wore his clothes until they were thin and frayed. He ate simple meals, just enough to keep working. After many long years, he finally reached his goal. He had saved 300 taels of silver. It was a small fortune. To Zhang San, that heavy box of silver coins was not just money. It was his future. It was safety. It was every sunrise he had worked through and every night he had gone to sleep a little hungry. He would take the box out, just to look at it. He would run his fingers over the cool, round coins. The clinking sound they made was the most beautiful music in the world. But this joy was always followed by a sharp stab of fear. What if someone took it? What if a thief broke in? The thought made his stomach clench. He hid the box in different places. First, he put it under his bed. But every night, he lay awake, listening for footsteps. He was sure he could hear someone creeping towards his room. That was no good. Then, he hid it inside an old clay jar in the corner. But every time a neighbor came to visit, Zhang San's eyes would dart to that jar. He was sure they could see the outline of the box through the clay. The fear was eating him alive. The money, which was meant to be his joy, had become his prison. Finally, he had what he thought was a brilliant idea. It was a solution so perfect, so clever, that he felt the heavy weight of worry lift from his shoulders for the first time in weeks. He waited for the deep silence of midnight. The moon was a thin sliver, casting a pale, weak light. He took a shovel and went to a quiet corner of his small yard, near the back wall. The soil was cool and damp. He dug. The smell of fresh earth filled the air. He dug until the hole was deep. He placed his precious box of silver inside and covered it with dirt. He patted the ground flat, making sure it looked just like the rest of the yard. No one would ever know. He stood up, brushing the dirt from his hands. He looked at the spot. And in the pale moonlight, it was perfect. But then, a tiny, horrible thought crept into his mind. The spot was too perfect. It looked like nothing. But what if someone thought that was strange? What if a patch of freshly turned earth made them curious? His heart started to pound again. His clever plan suddenly had a giant, gaping hole in it. He had to do something. He had to make sure no one would ever dig there. So, he went back inside. He found a brush and some ink. He took a long, wooden board. He thought very carefully. If he said nothing, people might be curious. But if he told them there was nothing there, then they would surely believe him, right? He dipped the brush in the ink and painted 7 large characters on the board. There is no 300 taels of silver buried here. He carried the board back to the yard and hammered it firmly into the ground right at the spot. He stood back and admired his work. Now, it was safe. Now, no one would ever look there. He went to bed and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep for the first time in months. He was not the only one awake that night, though. There was a neighbor, a man named Wang Er. Wang Er had noticed Zhang San acting strangely for days. The way he jumped at every sound, the way he guarded his little house. That night, Wang Er couldn't sleep. He heard the faint sound of digging. He got up and looked out his window. He saw Zhang San in the yard, working by moonlight. His curiosity was fully awake. After Zhang San went inside and the light in his room went out, Wang Er waited. He waited a long time to be sure Zhang San was asleep. Then, he slipped out of his own house and crept towards the back wall of Zhang San's yard. He saw the fresh earth. He saw the board. He moved closer and read the words in the moonlight. There is no 300 taels of silver buried here. He had to cover his mouth to stop from laughing out loud. It was the most foolish thing he had ever seen. He had brought a small shovel, just in case. He started to dig. It didn't take long. The shovel hit the wooden box with a soft thud. He pulled it out of the earth. He pried open the lid. There they were. The silver coins, gleaming softly in the night. His heart raced, but with greed, not fear. He took the box and hurried back to his own house. Back in his room, with the silver on his table, a new fear took hold of him. It was a different kind of fear. It was the fear of being caught. Zhang San was not a stupid man. He would see the empty hole tomorrow. He would see the board. Who would he suspect? He would suspect the neighbors. And Wang Er was the closest neighbor. It was obvious. He had to do something. He had to stop Zhang San from suspecting him. He had to use the same cleverness that Zhang San had used. It was so simple. He took a brush and ink. He found another board. He thought about what to write. He wanted to make it clear that he had nothing to do with it. He wrote 7 characters on his board. Neighbor Wang Er did not steal it. He waited until the sky was just beginning to lighten in the east. He crept back to the yard. He saw the empty hole. He saw Zhang San's board. He placed his own board right next to it. Then he went home, feeling very satisfied with himself. He had solved the problem. Now Zhang San would know it wasn't him. The next morning, Zhang San went to check on his silver. He saw the hole. His heart stopped. His legs felt weak. His silver was gone. All of it. He felt the world spin. Then, he saw the second board. He walked over and read it. Neighbor Wang Er did not steal it. He stared at the words. He read them again. He read Zhang San's board and then Wang Er's board. And in that moment, staring at those 2 foolish signs, he understood everything. Zhang San wanted to hide his silver, so he put up a sign saying it wasn't there. Wang Er wanted to hide his guilt, so he put up a sign saying he was innocent. Their attempts to hide the truth did not conceal it. They screamed it out loud for the whole world to see. The story of Zhang San and Wang Er became a joke that traveled through the village, then through the region, and then, for hundreds of years, through all of China. Their names are forgotten, but their foolishness is remembered every time someone tries to cover up a lie with an even bigger one. People use this story even today. We say someone is protesting too much. In English, there is a similar idea. We might say, "The lady doth protest too much," from Shakespeare. It means when someone keeps saying they didn't do something, again and again, you start to think they probably did. It's the same feeling. The denial becomes the proof. Think about your own life. Have you ever been in a situation where you tried just a little too hard to prove you were right? Maybe you made a small mistake at work, and instead of just admitting it, you gave a long, complicated excuse. The more you talked, the more everyone in the room got quiet. You could see it in their eyes. Your explanation didn't clear you. It condemned you. Or think about a friend who posts online about how happy they are, how perfect their life is, all day, every day. Beautiful pictures. Perfect words. And you can't help but wonder. You wonder if they are trying to convince you, or themselves. Sometimes, the loudest announcement of happiness is a sign that it's just a thin cover for a lot of pain. Just like Zhang San's sign, the very act of shouting "I am happy" can make people look closer for the cracks. We all have a little bit of Zhang San and Wang Er inside us. When we are afraid, when we feel guilty, or when we feel insecure, our first thought is often to build a wall. We want to cover it up. We want to control what other people see. We put up signs in our own lives. We say things we don't mean. We act in ways that aren't true, hoping to point attention away from the thing we are most afraid of. But people are smart. The world has a way of seeing through the walls we build. The harder you try to hide something, the more interesting it becomes. The secret you try to bury the deepest is the one that is most likely to be found. The truth has a weight to it. You can cover it with words, but you can't make it disappear. The story is a mirror. It asks us to look at our own signs. What are we trying too hard to prove? What are we so afraid of people seeing? Because in the end, the only real safety is not in hiding, but in being honest enough to stand there, with nothing to hide. You don't need a sign in your yard. You don't need to tell the world what you did or didn't do. When you have nothing to prove, you have nothing to fear. And that is a peace that no amount of silver can ever buy.
真诚感谢你的收看。如果本期内容对你有帮助，请点赞或留言告诉我。你的反馈对我非常重要。下期见。